What is up, Jabronis? JJ back here with Snyder and Big T, talking a little DFS, sports betting for the college football playoff and a few of these early games. It's nice to have Tony on. Snyder, nice to have you again. Sorry for being a little late, but needless to say, we're here. Not exactly feeling 100% either. Tony had the hot sweats yesterday, but he looks more refreshed this morning.
I'm not, I assure you.
I still can't get fully my voice back, but you know, we're here. We're alive. Snyder looks extremely healthy, so good for what's going on in Nebraska. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I guess we could kick it off right with the 11 a.m. game. Any initial thoughts, Snyder, for Rutgers Wake? I know that you look at the spread. I think it's as high as 17 now, and the total is 63-ish. I can't bet the game here in Jersey, but I do like there to be points in this first half. I think that because Wake plays so fast, I think that Rutgers could like accidentally get a few touchdowns here today. And I think overall, I think there's certain items in the passing game for Rutgers that could maybe surprise some today. But what do you think for the game, Snyder?
Yeah, we got Sam Hartman coming off that pretty bad performance where he threw 4 interceptions in the last game we saw him play against Pittsburgh in the ACC title game. I think he's going to bounce back big here against this bad Rutgers team. I think Hartman's going to – we saw him put up, 40, 50 points sometimes this year. I think we got another spot here that he's just going to unload on these guys. But he is going to be without Ja'Cory Robinson, so that's going to – push all the ownership to A.T. Perry. He's a little underpriced at only 6.6K. So I think A.T. Perry and Sam Hartman is one of my favorite stacks of the day. I mean, I would look to. I think Taylor Morin's going to see some ownership too, but I think I would rather go down to Donald Stewart here at 1,400 cheaper. He's seeing about the same workload as Donald Stewart or as Morin is this year. So I'm going to probably roll for him for a little cheaper, but mainly just the passing game for me here. Not much here on the Rutgers side for me. I mean, Bo Melton's there. I mean, he'll probably get you that normal 10 to 12 points like he has every game this year, but not much like there. I think the running back for Rutgers may see a little bit of ownership with his cheap price tag, but I'm probably going to be off of that. Pretty bad game script for him in this situation.
Yeah, and Tony, what are your thoughts on this game? Obviously, it figures to be ugly from the Rutgers end, but I'd argue on a 4-game slate, it might push people off. I think ultimately that's what's going to keep a guy like Bo Melton's ownership numbers somewhat down. I mean, I'd be pretty shocked if Bo Melton saw ownership on DK of more than like 15 to 20%. And I think that I'm going to be overweight there primarily because Rutgers going to be throwing all game long. He's the guy they throw to. Wakes is definitely exploitable in the secondary. But what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, the good part about this game is points should come pretty easy, whereas I think Bama and Georgia and some of the bigger boys could score some points, but they're going to come a lot harder than the points are going to come in these first 2 games where there's a lot weaker talent on the field, obviously, and high-powered offenses. So I agree. I mean, the first game could honestly be pretty sneaky. If Rutgers can score at all, it could be like yesterday where the slate was over 1 game in, where if you didn't have a full stack of that game, you were done for the most part. I mean, I know Redmond in the chat had 2, and I had that one bullet where we had basically the nuts with the best running back in the late game to where you basically couldn't lose right out of the gate. I don't think I haven't seen that in a while. And today could be a similar thing. I mean, if you get 40 plus from Hartman, a couple of these receivers get in the 30s, all of a sudden Rutgers gets, I don't know, if they score anywhere close to high 20s. I mean, these guys, Melton, a couple of these other guys, this Shaman Jones or whatever his name is, he houses one at a cheap price. You could definitely and Wake's defense isn't any good. I've watched them get exposed at times. So Rutgers is bad, and it's tournaments we're talking about. So could go wrong. Rutgers could just get killed, not score any points. So don't go all in on this or anything, but definitely could be a lot of points. As far as the actual players, though, I mean, you have to like A.T. Perry. And then, so last time when Wake played, I played Stewart over Morin because the dude is a monster. Like, he's just a beast. and Morin doesn't look very skilled at all. And then Morin went off, and it tilted me very hard. I still think Stewart's better though, and he's $1,400 cheaper. And we got Keyshawn Williams now, who is going to play where Roberson usually plays. He's $3,100, and I think he might be my favorite of all of them, factoring in price. If we want guys like the big boys, I mean, let's look at the prices up top. You got Nichols, 95. You got Jamison Williams, 88. Mainly those two are the two I'm talking about, but also quarterbacks. You got to find some value, and I think the best value probably of the day even is Keyshawn Williams at 3,100. I really like him a lot in here. The Rutgers side's a little harder for me.
We just got some news on that Rutgers side. Pretty big news. Bo Melton's out, and so is Isaiah Pacquiao, the running back. So it looks like Isaiah Washington's gonna fill in, and Aaron Young's gonna be the guys.
It's just gonna be it's gonna have to just be a fade for me, I think, at this point. Dan, I gave the whole speech about how I could talk myself into points, but I mean, when they don't have, I don't know. There's got to be. I guess you could still play a guy, but I'm definitely not going to play the quarterback. I'm not going to spend salary on it, put it that way. If you find a cheap play that you can play with some weight guys, go ahead. Man, I don't see any way they stay in this game now, though. I mean, they can't.
Yeah, I don't. It's likely not going to be very competitive. I think that it does cause a bit of a wrinkle, though, in lineup construction, especially for me, because I did have a lot of Melton. So now I kind of got to figure out what I want to do with these lineups with Melton out, because I do think the Rutgers is going to throw the ball to somebody, and at least they still have Vedral. Vedral's not good by any means, but at least he knows the offense. And man, so who are they saying Snyder's gonna get the biggest bump from Melton being out?
I'm seeing Isaiah Washington and Aaron Young are the guys looking to step up. I mean, Shamin Jones is going to be there as well, but don't really have much conviction on any of those guys now. I mean, that Isaiah Washington's at 3,600, but I kind of like some other guys in that range a little bit better, so I think I'm just going to be off of them.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we could move on to the next game. Just to be clear, did you also say Patchko is going to be out as well?
Correct.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's a pretty big loss.
They're in tough shape for sure. I mean, what's the number right now? 17 and a half already. I mean, it's just going to keep going.
Total's going to come down as well.
Wake's the type of team too. Some teams you worry about motivation in a bowl game, blah blah blah. Wake's the type of team that'll come in here and just want to pound them too. So I think you can. I know the number's huge, but I think you can bet Wake actually in the game. I think they're going to score a ton of points, and I just don't see how Rutgers can keep the pace. So I actually think you can lay. It just went to 17 and a half, so that's a huge number, and you're not getting the best of the number. Actually, you still might be getting the best of the number because the number is not built in with these two guys being out. So I think you can bet it. Dunkel, I mean, can we still bet this big number? You don't like betting big numbers like me, but I mean, how's Rutgers going to keep the pace? I don't get it.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those situations where I actually think that if you're going to bet it, I think it makes more sense to bet them full game versus half, because if Wake does go up, Rutgers coming back is not going to be easy by any means. So yeah, I mean, look, these bowl games, we've seen some crazy things happen. Wake Forest does play a little bit crazy. So, I think Wake makes a ton of sense to back even at 17 and a half. But again, these bowl games laying that big of a number hasn't been fun, especially this bowl season.
I mean, every bowl season for the most part. I feel like I've made money for the last 20 years betting. Anytime double-digit dogs in meaningless games, I feel like they got to cover at 70% rate. They always feel like they cover because they have more motivation.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the case in this game, though, just to flip what I just said. They weren't even supposed to be in the game either, were they?
I'm not sure on
that. It was like 14.
Oh,
or 14.
yeah.
have before anyway. All right, so we can move on.
I don't know. I think I might bet big on Wake. No, I'm talking myself more and more into it. This Rutgers team is awful, even with these guys. Vedral, I think it's gonna get very ugly in my opinion.
So we can move over to Central Michigan, Wazzu. Wazzu -7 total, I think 61-ish. Snyder, DFS wise, what are some of your thoughts here and the way to target this game?
Yeah, I'm still running through how I'm going to attack this game. Right now, I'm going to be on Lou Nichols. I mean, I don't know how popular he's going to be. His price tag's up there at 9.5K, and as we were talking kind of pre-show, you guys were saying that Bama's going to get some ownership, and well, they probably will. The game script you were talking about, JJ, with Central Michigan being a 7-point underdog in this game, kind of is going to go away from the running attack. But I still think Lou Nichols is going to see his 30, 35 carries in this game. And Washington State hasn't been bad against the run, but I mean, they're allowing right around, I think, 150, 160 yards per game to the rushing game. So I think Lou Nichols can still get there. From the Washington State side, probably the most popular play on the slate is going to be that Nakia Watson, as Washington State's without their other two running backs. He's the only guy they got, so they're going to be leaning on him. He's pretty much minimum price on both sides, so I'll definitely have exposure to him. I do like the passing attack here. I'm kind of deciding on which guys I want. I'm going to play two of these guys together probably. It's going to be either Travell Harris, Calvin Johnson, and Dazon Stribling. I'm probably going to go Stribling, and I'm trying to decide which one I want to go with between Harris and Jackson. Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards Jackson. They're both seeing right around 25% market share this year. So, I mean, they're basically the same player, I think. Jackson does have about 100 more yards, a little over 100, 150 more yards than Harris this year. So I think I'm going to slightly lean to him, but I think this game has the possibility to put points on the board. We got their total's near 60 here. So I think we're going to see some points in this game as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it goes without saying Central Michigan is going to speed this game up, and you can do a lot of things offensively against Central Michigan. Washington State's offense has been a bit of a letdown this year, but man, this is a good spot for them. Tony, I'd argue this game is the most targetable game on the slate from a both side perspective in terms of pricing, in terms of projected points, in terms of projected yardage. What's your approach to attack this game?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it looks clearly like, well, for sure, I'm not going to play guys from Cincy. I'm not going to play guys from Michigan. Now I'm not going to play guys from Rutgers either. So, and I say that I could play a value guy from all those teams. I'm not going to use salary on any of those other teams. So if you find a value guy, absolutely you can use them. But as far as a full game stack, this is the only option for me now. And the game stacks are what prints in college too. So we got, let's just look real quick with the number. So 58 total in Cincy, or 57 total, 63 in the first game, and then 46 in the late game. But yeah, it looks like clearly the best stack for me. The dilemma of the day is what Snyder said, what to do with Lou Nichols. Can you have enough value? So I'm going to do what I always do and just let the optimizer decide. I'm going to project him under what I think the projections are going to show. They're going to have him definitely higher than I think he should be. Most sites will have him high 20s, low 30s. I don't think you can project him that high in this game. I do think he's good, but I don't think he's as good as the projections will think he is. But if he still hits my teams, giving him, I don't know, 23 fantasy points, probably where I'll project him in that range. If he still hits my builds, then I'll play him. If not, which I probably don't think he will, I'll probably fade him. And it's a risky fade for sure. He's put up some monster games. He gets tons of volume. But I don't know. He doesn't seem as explosive to me as other people think he is just from watching him. So not going to be there. But you got a ton of weapons in this game. Look at the Washington State side. You got these receivers are studs, and it kind of reminds me a little. It's going to be a terrible comparison, but like when Alabama played last time, and you got the quarterback with two explosive weapons like Calvin and this Harris dude. I think you got just a ton of upside going with that 3-man stack. Yeah, you can go down too. And Watson's going to be the chalk of the slate. You can play him even with this. But if you somehow got a different build and somehow didn't play Watson and played just the full passing attack and you catch the right script, I'm not saying to fade Watson either. I'm just giving some ideas for tournaments. The dude's 3,500. He's going in a great matchup. So take it for what it's worth. You can play him in the stack too. He's so cheap. I mean, Watson might end up being literally 85% owned today. Like, everyone's going to play this guy. So he's a good play. I'm just saying, if you're playing a few teams and you want to fade him on one and he gets, even if he gets like 10 points or something, which is definitely, it could happen, you can beat that. Like, you can build a different combo in college where everybody goes off and you beat that because you faded the really good chalk. You don't have to play him on every single team, even though, I mean, the dude is basically a lock at 3,500 against Central Michigan when he's going to get, I mean, is there even another running back that's going to get?
Yeah, Basil's the only other running back on the roster.
Who? What's his name?
Basil.
Yeah. So, I mean, this dude's going to get, if not all the work, almost all the work. But again, he's going to be 85% owned, I bet. So you just take it for what it's worth. If you want to fade it, who knows what can happen? It's a freaking bowl game. The dude could get hurt. They could throw all game. I'm just saying the leverage behind stacking the passing game and somehow fading that dude could be just massive. And then you look at the Central Michigan side. I've always liked their passing game. I mean, these projections don't necessarily show it, but Pimpleton's always been a guy I like. Ja'Cory Sullivan's always been a guy I've liked a little bit. So Dunkel's idea of stacking this game and somehow not playing the running backs, well, he didn't say that. I'm saying that. It's kind of interesting to me in a tournament because if Nichols somehow gets 18 and Watson gets 10, which I think is in the realm of outcomes for these two guys, I think you could win all the money because of that.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I'll tell you this. I like Wazzu early in this one. I think that Central Michigan is a team that, yes, can lift themselves back, but they're a team that loves to run the ball. They're a run-first team. And, yeah, they have explosive weapons on the outside like Pimpleton and Sullivan. And they find creative ways to get Pimpleton the ball. He typically gets a few carries a game and returns every kick and punt. But, yeah, I think this is the type of game where Wazzu can push his team backwards with their O-line most of the game. And to me, whoever's going to be back there is likely going to be the recipient of the stats, whether it's Watson or whether it's this other kid. And I think, Wazzu will be able to throw if they'd like, leverage play action. Problem is with the Wazzu passing game is it's really not cheap. So, I think you can you'll definitely be different if you're just going to stack.
That's why I use that Bama example though, because it's not cheap and it's like no one's going to play it.
Yeah, so I think you can definitely be different. And let's be honest, Tony, with the price of these running backs, you can stack the passing game with the running back. Like, it's not like you can't put it with it, because I don't think a lot of people are going to full stack this game. I think that, yeah, it's going to be common that people are going to play the running back or running backs and, make their money elsewhere on this slate. And this game could shoot. I mean, if Central Michigan's offense shows up today, which it very well could, Wazoo's offense is going to put up a lot of points today. So, interesting how it all plays out. But I do think from a leverage standpoint, you can definitely be different by just completely stacking this game. And, maybe a piece or two from Wake in the first game, stack this game, one piece from each of the last two games. And that could be what wins it all for you. Because, again, this is pound for pound. To me, this is the best game to stack on the slate from all sides. So, all right, so we can move on. On to the college football playoff. So Bama, Cincinnati, did my video where I gave out Bama under their team total at 35.5. I just think that from a continuity standpoint, Mechie being out is going to put a little more eyes on Jameson. Not that it's going to matter. He's super good. But I do think that from a continuity perspective, it's going to cause some issues for this Bama offense in relation to timing. Cincinnati's had 37 sacks this year. I'd expect them to bring some flavor of heat towards Bryce Young. We learned that you can't. They keep him upright. He's going to. This team will score 50 today. He was upright against Georgia all game long. But I think since he's been, has that underdog mentality, and I think they not saying they cover, but it wouldn't be crazy to me that Bama wins a game, 31-7 or 31-14, something like that. So, but yeah, as for this game, Snyder, DFS wise, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I kind of think this game's going to start out a little slower. I think Cincinnati's going to come out and throw like the kitchen sink at them and just unload the inventory on them here early. But I do think there's ways to get a Jameson Williams in your lineup. I mean, I don't think you can play Jameson Williams and Nichols together, so it's kind of a 1v1 there, whichever guy you prefer. And you get Williams at pretty good discount versus him. It'll be interesting to see how many people play Bryce Young on this slate with Hartman and Jaden DeLora there too. I think Bryce Young's going to come in quite a bit lower owned than the other two, as I think I do kind of like the under in this game some. I think it's going to be a little slower than maybe other people think. I think Brian Robinson, he's got a low price tag in this game compared to what we're seeing earlier in this year. So I think he's in a good spot here. Cincinnati does have a pretty good defense. I think they're getting. It's interesting to see. I'm not sure what they're going to do on these receivers because Alabama, without John Minchie, they only have I think Minchie and Williams were the only two guys, and the next closest guys had like 333 yards total on the year was the next closest guy. I think the next guy up that I like the best is going to be Ja'Cory Brooks. They kind of leaned on him a little bit late. He saw 5 targets in a game towards the end of the stretch. I think he's the guy. He had a pretty big catch there too down the stretch. I think he's the guy I'm looking at. He's under 4K. I think he's going to be the main guy from Alabama I'm looking to target in this game. Don't mind the Bryce Young to Jameson Williams. That's going to be a pretty low-owned stack. If you're going to go that way. For Cincinnati, I'm really not looking at anyone here. I mean, you could play Jerome Ford. He's at 7,200. I think he's going to be pretty low-owned in this game against this Bama defense. I mean, you could look at a couple of these guys. The receivers is tough to target. Who's going to get the ball from this Cincinnati team? I mean, we've got 5-6 guys that are averaging right around 4 targets a game on this season. I mean, Alec Pierce is the guy that's seen 10 targets, 4 targets, 6 targets recently. I mean, he's seen 22% of the market share, so he's kind of the guy that sees the most. But I really don't have much conviction on any of these Cincinnati guys. So it's mainly going to be Ja'Cory Brooks for me with Alabama. Maybe I put some Brian Robinson Jr. in there. I'll probably have a couple Bryce Young stacks, but I mean, I'm going to be underweight the field, I think, on this game.
And Tony, what's your thoughts? Because I know you really like Bama to roll here. So, what's your thoughts on just kind of going alone with a Bama stack, not even a run back? Some of these Cincy guys are pretty expensive considering the matchup. So, what's your thoughts on how you're attacking this game?
Yeah, I mean, this slate looks pretty easy to me. I don't want to go overkill on Bama. I'm definitely not playing any. I don't even consider any Cincinnati guys, like not a single one. They're the first team I just totally cancel off the slate. I mean, besides maybe Rutgers, I might be able to find a cheap dude from Rutgers, but definitely not going to play a Cincy guy. And honestly, the nice part about Bama is there's not really that many ways I want to go there either. Like Bryce Young, Jameson Williams is expensive. I don't think you have to even use Bryce Young, really. So while I love Bama, I mean, Brian Robinson at 6,800 looks like a priority to me. I think he should have a big game today with being down a receiver. Really, so Bryce Young, Jameson, Brian Robinson, and then you got the two are cheap guys. Ja'Cory Brooks, like Snyder talked about, I think is a great value. If you play Bryce Young, I think you should play Ja'Cory Brooks for sure, and Jameson Williams. Maybe you play Brian Robinson too, but you don't have to do that. And then the only other guy for me is Slade Bolden. You can play him. I don't think he's very good, but it's Bama, and they're going to score points, I think, and they're going to have to go somewhere. So we've seen him on the field. We've seen him do some things in the past. I definitely don't think he's good, man. I want that to be known. I think he's really bad. But he could grind out a touchdown and 80 yards or something like that to where he gets us 16 fantasy points or something. And who knows? It could be good on this slate. So that's where I'm at. I think this game's super simple, though. I think Bama rolls. I mean, what's the spread at right now? 14? What is it?
I think it's 14.
Yeah, is it 14? 14.
13.5 on DK, 14. Yeah, I mean, see if you can get the 13.5. I like Bama for sure. I think they just pound Cincy. I don't know about the points, though. I mean, these guys could be right. I think we could both almost be right in a way because I don't think Cincinnati's going to score hardly at all. So I know Dunkel likes the team total under. I could easily see a way Bama covers and it goes under for him. So I don't totally hate that. And I think DFS-wise, it's a super easy game. And you don't need to play anything in it either, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a decent amount of ways you can go in this game. I think that you can. I think that there's not going to be a common theme. I think there's going to be people that stack Bama with one run back from Cincy. You could argue. See, here's the problem. Like, I'd love to stack Cincy, but their pricing doesn't make sense to stack. Like, it just doesn't. So,
yeah.
Like, if you stack them, they're going to more or less need like 35 points for these guys to get there. Like, Ford's expensive. Ritter's expensive, and I love playing Ritter in the right opportunity. And if they priced him properly, to me in this matchup, he should be priced at like 6K. If he's priced at 6K, I think a lot more people are playing him. But at this price, it makes it very difficult. So, even like a guy like Alec Pierce is tough to love. I mean, he doesn't see a ton of volume. He's going to be up against real good corners. So yeah, ultimately, this game's I don't want to say a complete pass for me, but you definitely need pieces. I think Jameson Williams is a borderline lock. I think Robinson should be in a lot of your lineups as well. I think you play them together. I think if you play them together, the only way you're going to have issues is if Bryce Young literally goes nuclear to receivers not named Jameson Williams. So I think you can cover yourself. Just play the two best players on Bama and move on. Okay, last but not least, Georgia, Michigan. I said in my video before that I bet the game over 45. I mentioned in the video, it's like a little 3-minute video, so I won't go into heavy detail here now. It's on this channel, so if you have 3 minutes of your time, feel free to look at it, but I do like the over in this game. And Snyder, what are your thoughts DFS-wise?
Yeah, I don't really have much at all here. I mean, we got a total right around the low to mid 40s here, so I don't really like targeting those type of games in DFS-wise, but I don't mind playing a couple of these running backs, mainly James Cook. I've been on him somewhat this year. He's seen right around, he should see probably double-digit carries. He's seeing good pass game work as well. I do like that. I did see a message earlier this week. Kirby Smart was saying between Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels how they were going to take it day by day and just kind of see which one does well after Bennett kind of struggled last game. So that's interesting to know. I don't think I could play any of these passing game guys. Brock Bowers is priced all the way up to 7K on DraftKings. I think that's a little thin for him. Not really on any of these Michigan guys either. I mean, we got a pissed off Georgia team coming that just got humbled against Alabama in their last game. So I think they're going to be kind of coming out for a little blood here. I just think this is going to be like that boring game where we see like maybe Georgia wins like 21-10 or something. I mean, I don't really have much any want to play any of these guys really. I mean, if JT Daniels does start, I mean, you could maybe play him, throw him in there. That'd be a low-owned contrarian way to get different late or something, but most likely you're not going to have a quarterback spot or a super flex spot open, so you're going to be left out there. So kind of just a throwaway game for me, kind of, besides James Cook, though.
Yeah, and Tony, how are you looking at this game?
Yeah, I think Georgia might be the sneaky spot of the day for me. They're going to get no ownership, and I really like their guys. I really like the stack of – it's going to be completely unowned too. I've hit on these lately, so you might want to at least play one team with this. You can play Bennett, Bowers, Pickens, 3-man stack, and – I absolutely love it. Like, they're on a mission. They're pissed. They just got embarrassed. I think Michigan's overrated. I think Bowers is very good, incredible. He's going to be unowned. I think Pickens is maybe the best value play of the whole slate. He looked really good to me last game. He kept going in and out, caught a couple deep balls, though, was banged up. More time to rest, though. They're pissed. No one's going to play Pickens at 3,900, and he's going to go off. I think Georgia totally blows out Michigan. And like I said, literally no one's going to play this 3-man stack. Bennett, Bowers, Pickens. And I think it's just an incredible stack. So I'm going to be very high on that. I'm not going to play. Let me look at Michigan real quick. The only guy I would even consider on Michigan is Corum, just because he's cheap, 4,400. And I don't really want to play him, but running back today, it's not like incredible. I mean, I'm looking at I'm looking at my running back rankings. I only got 6 running backs even on my board, which is another reason why Watson's going to be 85% owned. There just isn't that many dudes out there. So,
You like Cook any Big T?
I'm high on Georgia. What'd you say, Snyder?
You like do you like Cook any Big T? He scored double-digit points in 6 of
I
those
played
last
him
7
every
games.
freaking game, and I get very tilted by him because he only gets half the work, and I think he's really good. But yeah, I'm gonna play him again. If I don't on my teams without Bennett, I will definitely probably have Cook, just because I like him. I agree with you. It's just so freaking tilting that they don't give him more workload. But he is good though, and I agree with everything. He's due for an explosion. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as the way I look at it, I think that in this game, I think you're going to need at least 1 or 2 pieces in this game. I don't think you can just completely fade this game, because I do think there's going to be points, and I think the scoring is fair enough. I think a guy like Pickens is super cheap. Bowers is definitely cheap at least on.
Pickens is for sure like my favorite. Like, he's going to crush.
Yeah, Pickens is in a good spot, and he looks healthy. Or looked healthy in his last 2 games that he's played in. And you figure he'll see a lot more snaps today, and the price is still super cheap. His upside is definitely 100 yards and a touchdown. So, definitely a deep good into the realm as far as price per dollar. And I think overall, I think you could go Haskins. I think Haskins might be somewhat popular today just because of, like you said, Tony, there's really no running backs you love on the slate. I think you could alternate between Haskins and Corum. Because Corum is still cheap enough where he gets a lot of high leverage snaps where they do their best to put him in space. So I think you're gonna need a few pieces from this game, but ultimately I don't see so I like the idea of stacking the Georgia side because no one's gonna do it. And I think if you do it, I think you got the right idea, Tony. I think you need to have Bowers and Pickens together there. And, I think you just need to have a decent game from Bennett and have one run back and one of the running backs from Michigan. So I think that's one of the ways you do it there.
I kind of don't think Bennett's as bad as people think he is. He's been getting just trashed because of that last game, but I don't think he's as bad. And he's been listening to everyone talk about how bad he is. So I like that motivation.
Yeah. And I think overall, first, people forget this is the 4th best team in college football in terms of yards per play. Like, this offense fucks. Like, it had a bad game against Bama, but they're extremely efficient. And I know Michigan's a really good defense, but this is the only better offense they've seen this year was Ohio State, and it was in a windy snow game. So, I'd expect both offenses to play pretty well here, and their pricing's fair enough where you can definitely stick guys in. So, okay. So that kind of wraps it up. I mean, any final notes on some of these games or slates, guys?
I think we covered it pretty good. I'm trying to get my player pool up for the people too on the website. I don't know if I'm going to get it up fully before this first game just because I'm rushing a little, but you guys got our thoughts if you watch this show. I mean, you got an hour before the next game. We can totally lock in. Let me look at Rutgers one more time before we get off. Let me make sure. What's our final thoughts on Rutgers? I think we covered everything good except for maybe Rutgers. Let me see. Is there anybody we can play on Rutgers? I think the running back, Aaron Young. I mean, who is this dude?
I think you can alternate between Washington and
Washington's all right. He got 5 targets in the last game. I mean,
Washington got 5 targets last game.
Yeah, he's 3,600.
What about this Jones dude? He's the one that the projections like the most. He's 3,500 and he's projected for 12.
Jones, I thought I have him in Shaheed or something like that, Tony.
Oh, Shaheem Jones, yeah,
Jones.
He's got 58 targets total on the year. He's seeing about 17% of the market share so far, so he's definitely in play there. He's got a good price tag too.
The projections, like,
he's a senior as well.
All the projections I see like him way more than Washington for what it's worth.
Yeah, he's been in the system the longest.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put him in with my Wake teams. I'll play some Jones for sure. I don't know about this Aaron Young projects decent, but it's his price. I don't think I'll play him. What's the deal with him, Snyder? This Aaron Young.
Not much. I mean,
Does he have any stats?
He's got a little bit. I don't think he's worth that price tag though at all. I mean,
well, that's what I keep looking at. Like you look at the play, and you're like, maybe I could play him, and then you're expecting to see 3,500, and you see 5,300. It's like, yeah. So it's just shaming Jones, or however you say it, for me in Washington, if you want. But I think we covered it all. I think Georgia is where I think you get the leverage on the slate.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I guess that wraps it up, guys. Thanks as always, everybody, for joining in. And yeah, guys, as always, gamble responsibly. Have a happy and safe New Year's. And look, as always, run pure. We'll see you guys.